Okay, hi everyone. Welcome to the last video in the resume series. In this portion, we're going to talk about formatting. Now, formatting is both somewhat the least critical and perhaps the most critical part of resume writing. What I mean by that, when I say least critical, is developing your content is extremely important. You really have to focus on that, and without the right content, there just simply is no resume. However, when I say most critical, what I mean is it's the way that people take you seriously. So, for instance, think about when you go to an interview, do you just wear shorts and a t-shirt? No, of course not. No one would take you seriously. And so formatting is kind of like the way your resume puts on a suit. And so that's how you get people to take you seriously. So in that sense, it's the last thing you should do, but it's also extremely important to do and to do it well. Now, there are many different ways you can format your resume. And so I'm not going to talk in any very great detail about exactly how to do it, but just know that there are some general principles out there that I'm going to tell you about, but just look at something that you like and try to mimic that formatting. One of the first pieces of formatting that you should have is your header. This is at the top of the resume, and the header should contain your name, your phone number, your email address, and your mailing address, just in nice plain language and font right at the top of your resume, so that if someone wants to contact you, they can do it very easily. Now, I'll talk about this later, but this header should also be the same header you use for your other application materials. So if you have a cover letter, use the same header on the cover letter. If you have a writing sample, you should do an introduction to the writing sample, use the same header there. So this is pretty standard, pretty basic stuff. The other thing you want to keep in mind is spacing in your resume. Because the white space on the page is very important and you don't want to use a bunch of different formatting, spacing can be a really good way to help call out certain things. So for instance, you don't have to double space everything on the page, but between large sections like education and professional experience, you may want to put a full return, a full line between them. But maybe the actual content for each element of your resume might just be single spaced, but between them you put 1.5 lines. And in this way, you can help neatly divide up the page and visually organize the information while still conserving white space on the page. And so what do I mean by white space? Why am I even talking about that? Well, white space, quite simply, is just the amount of blank space on the paper. White space is important because if you think about what the opposite of white space is, it's just pure content. And so some of you might have been thinking, oh, okay, if I have to get all of my resume onto one page, then I'll just put it in tiny 0.8 font and then just every single bit of white space be taken up with text. That's not a good idea. It's hard to read and no one's going to read it. You have to remember that the people that are reading this are human beings, just like you and me. And so think about if you received a piece of paper that just had tiny little font all across the page. You wouldn't read it. No one would. And the people that are reading this might have to read dozens, hundreds, not likely thousands, but quite a few. And so it's important that you get them on your side by formatting your resume in a comfortable way. The one thing that I forgot to mention at the beginning that I sort of alluded to was your resume should be limited to one page. This is critical. If you are watching this video, chances are good that you are not so far advanced in your career that you can afford to have a resume that's longer than one page. As I said, when I worked at PricewaterhouseCoopers, we would have partners who would have resumes that were many pages long, or if you're a professor who's been in academia for many decades, then you might have a resume that's even longer. But for people like you and me, keep it to one page. Because again, a human being is reading this and you are one of dozens or hundreds of applicants. So it's very important to balance getting enough content on the paper that you can really make the case for yourself while having it neatly formatted and fitting into one page. So there really is a balance between how well you format the paper and how much content you can get on there. And so that's something that you'll just kind of learn with experience, but just remember to pay attention to both elements and that both are important. So in the next exercise, I'm going to show you some sample resumes and you tell me which one is the best. All right, see you there.